Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking, where we dive deep into regional headlines and speak with leading policymakers and business leaders. I am Katie Jensen. The Arab League has unveiled an ambitious plan to rebuild Gaza following an extraordinary meeting held last week. While Arab leaders have welcomed the initiative, key stakeholders like Israel and the US have dismissed it outright, saying there should be no role for Hamas and demanding Gazans are displaced until the reconstruction is over. On this episode, we speak with Abdulrahman Al Rashed, a renowned Saudi columnist and political analyst, to ask whether the Cairo plan can ever materialize in reality. Can the secret talks between Hamas and the White House be successful? Plus his views on the reforms happening in Saudi Arabia and its transition to becoming a global power broker. Mr. Al Rashed, thank you for joining us today on Frankly Speaking. Well, there's been a lot of key developments across the Arab region in the last few weeks, but let's begin with the outcome of that extraordinary Arab League summit meeting in Cairo earlier this week. Now, as important as it was that the Gaza reconstruction plan was presented, frankly speaking, does it not become a bit pointless given the key stakeholders, US and Israel, have now dismissed the plan? So tell me, what happens next? And is there a real concern that the threat of displacing these millions of Palestinians suddenly becomes a reality?
I think this will leave us with it leaves us with three plans now. One is the Arab League plan, which says, people stays in Gaza and reconstruction should be done in 5 years. And the Israeli plan, which, basically occupation and probably continuation of military activities. And of course, we have the Trump plan, which is the Rivera. The 2 million people should leave and reconstruction of the whole area and to make it livable. I don't know whether the 2 million will come back or not, but the three plans are now on the table. I am not sure really of the Cairo summit has succeeded in convincing the White House, but at least we have a plan. This is the point here, is to negotiate. So I think this is really just a way to negotiate to keep the momentum. So it's not just Trump saying, let's have the 2 million people out and we have chaos in Egypt, Jordan, and the Middle East. We have a way to start the negotiation, I guess.
Okay, and of course, there's a big concern that two of these plans essentially amounts to ethnic cleansing. But you say the latest plan from Cairo is an important part of the negotiations to continue. I think one of the key issues, of course, is that Hamas has now come out in support of the Cairo plan. This makes it a lot harder to sell the idea to the Americans and the Israelis as well. Now, I know a number of the Arab leaders before the summit came out and said that Hamas should step aside if it's in the best interest of the Palestinians. So tell me, do you think there is anything the Arab leaders can do to convince Hamas to do this?
Actually, Hamas last night made a statement almost close enough to say they accept the plan, and they almost said that they are willing to accept whatever the all Palestinian parties will agree to run Gaza, to manage Gaza. So I believe Hamas has so far almost, getting closer to saying yes. And I think probably whomever will deliver the plan to Washington will have the Hamas acceptance, and not just acceptance. I think it will give it some sort of value, but not good enough because Hamas does not say really will leave Gaza. And Trump has repeated that recently, saying Hamas has to leave Gaza. Hamas saying they are willing not to run Gaza. So we are 50% from that point. But I think eventually Hamas will leave Gaza based on the Arab League plan.
And of course, I guess that's one of the big unknowns, that whilst we see them, potentially backing out or being involved on a political level, there's a very big question mark over whether they will actually put their weapons down and completely disband. Now, the White House has now admitted it's been having direct talks with Hamas. President Trump and his colleagues have been saying American lives are on the line here. But at the same time, we've also seen President Trump issue a stark warning to Hamas, saying that this is the last chance they have to immediately release all of the hostages and to leave Gaza. Tell me, what do you make of this?
I think we are right now on the edge of the second phase of the war. So we will see probably more Israeli tanks will roll into Gaza, and probably this is just the warning might work like a magic. Probably Hamas will release most of the hostages or the remaining hostages in the coming weeks. That probably will make it easier. And this is just the beginning. I mean, I think the issue right now is for Hamas some sort of face-saving plan. Something will make Hamas looks like victorious, but they will not be in Gaza. I'm not sure really how it's going to happen, but this is what is missing right now. It's the Hamas image rather than really the lives of the 2 million Gazans or the remaining hostages.
Well, you seem quite optimistic on the Cairo plan, and that surprises me a bit because despite all of the Arab countries officially endorsing the plan, I noticed that many pundits, including yourself, seem to be unconvinced with its real practicality. I saw a recent tweet where you'd commented on a statement of the Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Al-Ghaid, who'd said that the plan also resolves Gaza's security and political issues. You said perhaps the Secretary General should go and present the plan to President Trump directly himself. So am I correct to read there's a little bit more than just cynicism to your tweet there?
Well, it is partly cynicism, yeah, it is. But I mean, what I'm saying, look, the whole conference happened in Cairo is because of Trump said what he said about the Riviera of the Middle East. So, but the Arab summit happened now trying to stop the catastrophe from taking place, which is 2 million people will be pushed out by the Israelis. Israelis already announced they will have, a second phase of fighting soon. So we could end up really, truly, I mean, with 2 million people, being deported from Gaza and all over the region, and we'll have a lot of, bad consequences. So this conference or this summit happened because trying to stop, the worst scenario. And I think, what the communique came out from Cairo is trying to please everybody, trying to please Hamas, trying to please Trump, trying to please, the Arab on the left, the Arabs on the right. And, this is why the communique watered down the whole thing and does not have a solid solution. So I think really Mr. Abul Ghaid, my opinion, should take the plan and take it directly to the Americans and talk to the Americans. We will have two possibilities. One, either they will negotiate, probably will reach an agreement, or probably Trump will do exactly what did with Zelensky and he will say no, he will not accept it. He will push the Arab League to change the plan and come up with something more practical. So this is what I meant, actually.
And I think that's one of the big concerns as well, how this plan would actually work on the ground in real life. And the other big issue is that Israel is not being reasonable either. In their statement, not only did they reject the involvement of Hamas, but they also rejected the role of what they described as the corrupt Palestinian Authority and UNRWA. Now, this makes virtually any solution impossible, especially given the fact that up until now, the US seems quite unwilling to put any pressure. They're backing Israel on a Hamas-free future, as well as the need to displace the Palestinians until the reconstruction is over.
No, let me drive it the other little bit to more. We talk about practicality because right now everything will not work unless we have a practical solution. Trying to push 2 million people out is not a practical solution. It's not going to happen. If it happens, it's just everybody will lose, including Israelis. So it's not practical. Trying to keep Hamas in Gaza and rule Gaza, that's not practical. So it's going to fail. Trying to have a combination of the above has some problem. But what I think right now, we have a real window of solution this time, much than before after the Cairo conference. And I think the Egyptians and the Qataris have the leverage now. They can really pressure Hamas. And Hamas, if they accept the idea, will release all the rest of the hostages. They will have a safe passage from Gaza, and they will leave somewhere else, maybe Algeria or somewhere else. And the Palestinians, mainly the PA, rules Gaza. I think if this scenario happens, and I bet my money on it, more likely, yes, we will have an end to hostility. I think Israelis will have some sort of supervision of Gaza. We'll have the Palestinians finally at peace. And we will have a new chapter will start in the Middle East now. Just,
yes, but Mr. Al
what is
Rashed,
needed.
it's also not practical for Israel to say no to Hamas, no to the Palestinian Authority. So who will rule Gaza?
I think, in terms of legitimacy, it's not Hamas, it is the PA. PA, the Palestinian Authority, is the one who has the legitimacy. And it's been recognized by everybody, including, Western countries. So the PA is already now governing the West Bank. It has been since
they're not popular in the West Bank,
from the 90s. So I think it is practical for the PA to govern Gaza.
Okay, well, let me play devil's advocate for a moment, because another prominent Saudi columnist, Hassan Yassin, he's written a column in our newspaper, Arab News, saying that Arabs need to give President Trump the benefit of the doubt. He argues, perhaps controversially, that President Trump might actually mean well and that he could perhaps pull out a miracle and achieve peace in the Middle East. Tell me, do you agree?
Yeah, I think we need to give President Trump, the space and the chance, because look, Trump is not Biden, and I think Trump is unique among all American presidents. He does definitely move mountains, and I think there is a great chance the Middle East, not really to sort out only Gaza, but we can go beyond that to the two-state solution. And I think, this is just the beginning. And I agree with Hassan Yassin. Hassan Yassin, he thinks now trying to have Russia closer, and probably will do the same thing with China later. Trump is doing bigger issues than the Middle East. So I think, this is an opportunity with the president who would, we will have 4 years. Maybe we should really engage him to sort out the 80 years old issue called the Middle East crisis.
And do you think that President Trump can at least convince Israel to accept the PA in Gaza? It's not like he has anything to lose. He doesn't have a third term. We know he is very determined to win that Nobel Peace Prize too.
Well, I think Trump can convince anyone, to be honest, his own way. He has his own style. I'm sure Netanyahu will not dare to treat Trump as he did with Biden or Obama before. So I think definitely Trump can make history, and he can win the Nobel Prize, definitely.
Well, he certainly doesn't mince words either. But let me ask you about the position of Arab leaders. We've seen both Egypt and Jordan have made it clear that the displacement of any Palestinians is a red line for them. The Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi, he went so far as to calling it an act of war. So do you think that Cairo and Amman are serious about their threat of military action or insinuation? We've seen reports Israel is actually concerned about the mobilization on the Egyptian side. I can see you shaking your head no there. And we've also seen unconfirmed reports that the Jordanians are willing to go in and build camps for the Palestinians within Israel if they're pushed to do so.
Well, look, I don't hear what they're saying. I look at the actions. I know the behavior. I don't think Jordan nor Egypt will go that far. I think these were the two best countries and governments in the region who knows how to handle crisis. I think just they are concerned about the issue of of Gaza. It's just things going really too far in terms of devastation. We have more than 50 people killed there. We have Israeli hostages remaining there as well. So we are stuck. I think the issue here is how to get the Israeli hostages out, how to get the Hamas running again, to be out of Gaza, how to have, peace in Gaza, and finally, how to activate the peace plan. I don't really think what we heard about, the Egypt and Jordan readiness. I don't take that seriously, honestly.
Okay, well, let's talk about a more optimistic development in the region, which is Lebanon. We've seen that landmark visit by the newly elected president, Joseph Aoun, to Riyadh. Do you think the worst is now over when it comes to the tensions between Saudi Arabia and Lebanon? We've heard another reports expected soon. There's a number of bilateral agreements that are to be signed as well. How true do you think this is?
Well, to a certain degree, the worst is behind us, but we still have problems. Even with kitchen knives, Hezbollah could be a problem. So, yeah, I think Lebanon is seen a chance, something they haven't seen in 40 years. Like Syria, there is a new chapter in Syria which will change, the old status quo, which remained for about 50 years. So we have something really quite interesting. The new Lebanon with the new president, with the new prime minister, and with a minimized Hezbollah. Yes, I think now we see the airport is open and people coming back to Lebanon. His visit, the president on to Saudi, I think it signals a lot. I think Saudis are extremely happy to see the changes there and to see the new appointments. And I think we are all waiting for whether both parties have agreed to. We expect a lot of announcement later of this year. I assume Saudis will see Saudi will allow. I would more of a normalization, a full normalization with Lebanon. Yes.
But picking up on what you said about Hezbollah still being a threat, even with kitchen knives, as we know, Hezbollah has been growing its tentacles in Lebanon since the 80s. So even with its leadership killed, it still has such a strong presence nationwide. Many Shiites serve in the National Army as well. So tell me, how do you think President Aoun will convince, or dare I say, force Hezbollah to lay down its weapons? And let's be very open here. Even if they play nice for the time being, what guarantees are there that they won't come back at a later stage?
Look, Hezbollah, of course, they are really facing a lot of problems right now. They have thousands of people who are running out of cash. They have, which they committed to pay them salaries every month. They don't have enough money to pay them. They have houses being destroyed. They need to be rebuilt. They have no routes to Iran anymore, unless they go through some faraway distances through Turkey or some other ways. They are disconnected from Iran. So these are serious challenges to Hezbollah. So Hezbollah has to play ball with the other parties in Lebanon and to coexist. Of course, we'll see some resistance to the status quo, to what's happening right now. But so far, Hezbollah, voted for the president and agreed with the president and voted for the new government. So probably Hezbollah will get the message. If they don't get the message, I think Iran will send the message. Really, Hezbollah cannot really play the old game. But that's too optimistic, of course, too early to say that. But I'm saying Hezbollah for sure does not have the power now to threaten Israel as it used to be, but it does have enough power to destabilize Lebanon. And I think, this is what everyone has to work with Iran and Hezbollah itself to stabilize Lebanon and for once, yes.
And I think that's one of the things that Hezbollah has had such a stronghold on the Lebanese nation, economy as well for decades. But we're seeing Iran operate now in a vastly diminished role across the region. So there is certainly some optimism to be had. But let me ask you about another country in the region that continues to make headlines, and that is Syria. Now, Syria's been going quite well since the fallout of the Assad regime, but we're now seeing some tensions with talks of the Syrian Druze who are looking for independence or semi-independence. Tell me, what is the view from Riyadh regarding this matter, and how worried are you personally about the possibility of a divided Syria?
Well, I cannot really speak on behalf of Riyadh, but my understanding, almost everyone, because I don't think really everyone, but most of them are extremely happy about the departure of the Assad regime. It has been there for half a century. It was a contributor to chaos. Remember now, the region is free from the three bad guys, the Assad family, the Saddam family, and Gaddafi family. So this is not bad, really, as a success story for the region. We still have some bad apples, definitely. But yes, I think Syria right now is just started. We cannot really judge things 100% from what we see so far, but everything we see and we hear sounds good enough. If it continues like that with the new Shara as a president and every promises he made, I believe it's quite good. And look, everyone extended their support to President Shara, including Saudis. He visited Riyadh as his first. He made his first visit, and Saudis, they made sure that to welcome him. So no excuse whatsoever that the new regime should be welcomed. Of course, is welcomed as long as behaves like a normal one in the region. And we are, of course, Saudi can contribute a lot to the development of Syria. But we need first, of course, to see the sanctions lifted, and has to do with Washington more than with Riyadh. But yes, this is what we see right now is history of the making, definitely.
Well, let me ask you again about the Syrian Druze, because Israel seems to be pushing for them to create an independent region. How concerned are you about that?
Look, I mean, Syria has been fragmented since the revolution started, the uprising in 2011. The regime was controlling 1/3 of the country only, and the rest was controlled by different groups. So this is still, not exactly the same, because now the new government, the new regime now controls about 50% or even 60% of Syria. That's much better than before. So the rest of the areas will need to be somehow included, not controlled. And I think this is really a political game more than a military game. But Israelis, whatever the objective is, they're trying, of course, to create a buffer zone by encouraging bordering areas like Druze area to be protected by them, and to give a signal they are under their protection. Look, this is, of course, an old game. We've seen it before. It doesn't work with Lahad group in Lebanon. It did not really work. Lahad, Lebanese, militia. They tried to protect the southern part of Lebanon for Israelis. It did not work, and eventually they ended up living in Israel. So I think the best solution for Israel is to work out a deal with mediators, with Syria, and try to have the Druze, of course, fully looked after, respected within the new system in Syria. Of course, we all agree with that. But at the end of the day, they are not really the soldiers to defend Israel or to defend anybody. Or, they should be, I think Israel has the right to say, to stabilize that area. There is a disengagement agreement was signed by Israel and Syria in 1974. And this is still in place. And I think Shara, after he took over, he promised to keep the disengagement agreement to be respected. So I think what Israel is doing right now is probably creating more chaos rather than making a buffer zone for itself.
Okay, well, certainly one reason to be more optimistic is your country, Saudi Arabia. I mentioned earlier, you've been a journalist for close to 5 decades, but I know that you were attacked and defamed for criticizing extremism back in the 90s and early 2000s as well. So tell me, how do you feel now that you see extremism being buried and a new, much more open and tolerant Saudi Arabia emerging?
Well, it's quite, it was very interesting because, because of my job for the past decades, I've been coming and going to Saudi, even though I'm Saudi, I spent most of my youth outside. And now, of course, but now I spend most of my time in Saudi, and it's really it's a welcoming place. It's a normal place compared to what it was. Uh, um, I think we spoke about this issues many times, but I'm sure your audience know a lot about it. But Saudi Arabia now is one of the best places people can visit. It's easy to from the minute you get your visa to the time you come back or you leave Saudi. So I think it's a place is welcoming everybody, including its own citizens, and I think. We are seeing not Saudi being developed and Saudi being modernized and Saudi being a moderate also in terms of Islam, but we are seeing a leadership which is trying to spread the words in the region and all over the Islamic world. So I think Saudis will change the Islamic world, not just to change Saudi Arabia as it's already happening right now. There is a great chance, definitely.
Well, I've been in the region personally for about 15 years, and I will say it's been incredible to watch some of the transformation going on firsthand. So I guess from your perspective, from Saudi defeating extremism, women are driving, Saudi is really becoming this power broker where Russians and Americans come to resolve their disputes. So how did Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman manage to turn the country around when you yourself had said in a previous interview that many people in the world had given up on the old Saudi Arabia?
Well, it's, individuals make big changes in history. You have and the leaders who make a big difference for their own countries. And I think the Crown Prince has shown his, ideas and of course resilient and from the beginning really, and everything he has said, he has been delivering and still working on it. This is something kind of unique because, for example, if you hear or if you listen to Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the past 10 years, hardly when he speaks to local media, to regional media about politics, he talks about economy, he talks about the welfare of the people, he talks about the future. These are three subjects which really, I think, makes a big difference. Unfortunately, politicians in the region, if you speak to anyone, they spend 90% of their conversation about politics. And I think, this is why Saudis, they have something called 2030. It's a vision for the future. And I think this is what everybody's busy with. And it's already started, and you can see it today in every place in Saudi Arabia. And I think this is how we can judge the changes is happening today. And it's all done because of one man who is the Crown Prince, honestly.
Okay, so certainly a real feeling of optimism. Well, Mr. Al Rashed, we're out of time, but I can't let you go before asking you about Arab News, which produces this show. Now, as you know, the paper celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, and for a big chunk of your career, you've been employed within the same group, SRMG, that publishes Arab News. So tell me, what do you recall about the history of the paper, and what do you see as the real landmarks throughout its 5 decades?
Oh my God, this newspaper actually, when it came out, was really, you talk about, that time, just the Egyptians and the Israelis and the Americans, they just started their dialogue. about that before the Camp David, and the region was in a big chaos more than what we see today. Arab News was actually the one made news when it came out that time. Arab News it has changed the region, the media landscape from the way it was launched in the 70s till today, because after the Arab News came out, the company, the SRMG, decided to go ahead and launch Al Awsat, the Arabic sister, and then we have another, chain of sisters and brothers of all the publications, and really, this is the new modern media was born when Arab News was born.
And tell me, what do you
And
sorry.
I have to give definitely, I have to compliment Faisal Abbas, the editor-in-chief. He made the Arab News great again, definitely. We thank him.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Frankly Speaking. I really appreciate your time and insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and happy Ramadan.